Hi, I'm Carol Jurgensen Sheets, aka Carol the Coach, and I have the honor of getting to work with you to help you find safety as a couple, to help the betrayer or the struggler assist you in that safety, as well as to help you grieve and mourn and get angry about what you lost through the infidelity. And there is no doubt there were lots and lots of losses. There are the external losses, like maybe having to give up your bed because the betrayer cheated in your bed. Or there's the internal losses, the self-doubt. What did I do to deserve this? What was wrong with me? Why did God betray me? I mean, there are so many negative thoughts associated with infidelity. And of course, when the betrayer is out of the fog, he or she is wondering, what have I done to our marriage? Well, I've got an assignment. If you remember earlier, I gave you the assignment to come up with an intention that you wanted for your marriage. If things could work out, and if the dust could settle, and if you could get through this together, what would you want for your new marriage? Well, I ask you the same thing in this situation, but a little bit differently. I say, I want to help you recreate a new intimacy pyramid. My buddies, Dan Drake and Janice Cottle, came up with an intimacy pyramid that they thought would be helpful in explaining what has to happen to create intimacy. And then Dan Drake and Joanne and Matthew Rapsmith altered it a little bit. I kind of want to show you what the originals look like because these four professionals are brilliant. The intimacy pyramid has developed into the bottom layer, the foundation, if you will, to create intimacy, closeness, and connection is honesty, which creates more safety, which builds more trust. And when trust has occurred, there's generally more vulnerability. And again, additional intimacy or connection, right? So this is what it looks like from the perspective of what does a healthy connection look like? Well, I looked at that and I looked at Urkham and I said, hey guys, you forgot something really important. Now, I don't know if you can guess what they forgot, but what I know they forgot was the all important empathy. So I came up with my own empathy pyramid, but it's still a pyramid to establish intimacy. And it looks like this. And what I really believe is in the intimacy pyramid that I created, it starts with both honesty and truth. And they're very, very different. Honesty is, of course, being 100% authentic about your behaviors, your feelings, and your thoughts. And truth is having the courage to be honest, even if it's going to cause conflict. And then I believe that empathy is so very important that this work can't be accomplished unless the betrayer can put the partner and the partner's perspective into the open heart and see things through the partner's eyes. Well, that creates safety and builds trust and increases vulnerability, which then creates connection. And when you have connection and you have all those other values lining up, it creates intimacy, which intimacy is really a closeness. Intimacy is not necessarily sexual, but it's a closeness that a couple feels to know that they're working on things. So that was my pyramid. Now, when I gave this to my Help Her Heal group, that's a group that I have for men who struggle with sexual compulsivity behavioral problems. One of the men said, "Oh, my pyramid wouldn't be complete without consistency, because consistency is something my wife always asks for. It's absolutely imperative in the process of trust building." And I thought, touche, that's great. I didn't even think of consistency. And then another group later, one of the men said, "I don't see faith in there. In both the one pyramid you showed us and in yours, there's nothing about spirituality, God, faith." And I said, "Oh, yes, we need another rung of the ladder of the intimacy pyramid to include faith." So I'm going to give you about 5 minutes to create your intimacy pyramid. And I don't want you to have to feel like it has to be anything fancy. The truth is, you can just draw a triangle. And I did one on the internet to look like a normal pyramid with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 rungs. As you come up with your values and your words, you may need 10 or 12. You may need 4 or 5. There's no right or wrong answer. But I will give you 5 minutes. And then what I'd like you to do is to write down the most important things that you believe your marriage needs to rebuild or build for the first time trust and intimacy, because you deserve connection. We will come back in 5 minutes, and I'm then going to ask you, after you've written those things down, to face each other knees to knees so that the knees touch. And if you will, I want you to look at the left eye, the window to the soul, and share with your partner what building blocks you think are necessary to create real connection and trust. Okay, I'll be back. I know that that brought up a lot of feelings because everybody had, oh, I would say a fundamental vision for their marriage from the get-go. And when infidelity occurred, it knocked the marriage down. Some people describe it like being run over by a Mack truck. Other people describe it as being hit by a tsunami. So I want you to think about how your partner's feeling as you both share with each other that very important vision for intimacy. All right, you've done some important work here, and it's an assignment in the all-important Helping Couples Heal. Helping couples heal from infidelity to find love again. That's my mission, and that's my goal, to have you build a whole new marriage that has the values that you want inside of it. That exercise is in this book. If you can't afford a counselor, you're in a country that doesn't have a coach, you can get the book and go through the work together. That's absolutely acceptable. And if you can afford a professional, I would recommend an IRCM specialist because they know the relational skills you need. They'll start out slowly, they'll pace you, and they'll get you from the all-important 3-phase model of IRCM. Safety and stabilization, which includes sobriety from betrayal and disclosure. If the partner wants the truth, that's part of the process. The emotional impact letter and the restitution letter. And then we teach the relational skills necessary to build up that safety so that you can start doing the grief and anger work and mourn what you had, what you thought you had, and what you fear you will never have. And last but not least, and this isn't linear, um, we're going to interject post-traumatic growth so that you will be very aware of how you're getting stronger, how you're growing through this, how you're setting better boundaries, what you're doing to help trigger busting, what you're doing to identify your needs and your primary feelings. How are you grieving the losses? And what are you pulling together to realize that you are stronger, that you are worthy, that you've always been worthy? Okay, that's it. That's it for this lesson on the intimacy pyramid. Please, if you're listening to this and you haven't done the work, please do the work now, because when you work it, it works. And I promise you, when I give assignments and I have a man or a woman who does not do their assignment or they don't fully complete it, it says to me they're not 100% committed and invested in doing what it takes to help the relationship heal. I'm Carol Jurgensen Sheets. It's a pleasure to have been with you. And I'll see you back here next time for more helping couples heal from infidelity to find love again.